Okay, welcome to Walking My Dog with me without my dog and with a lot of cold. Coming to you live from Arlington Heights, Illinois. I'm freezing. What the fuck, man? I today wanted to talk to you about a story that really made my blood boil in a way that I was not ready for. Ferociously texting all my friends, getting bombarded. Sorry guys, thanks for being cool. And that is Matthew Perry's Autopsy that was recently released, saying that he died of, quote, acute effects of ketamine. Fun fact, if you keep reading the article, New York Times, fuck you, gray lady. If you keep reading the article, it said, oh, by the way, Matthew Perry was also on an opioid that actually fights opioid addiction, which is real interesting. And he had a coronary artery disease. If anybody knows anything about hot tubs, two things you're not supposed to do is have a heart condition, and also in California, if you've had diarrhea for the last 21 days, you can't go in a hot tub. So guess what? No one can go in a hot tub. This story got me so upset and so mad because to me it just represents so many things that are wrong with America all happening at once. Just so everyone knows, the United States is one of two countries in the world that's legally allowed to directly advertise pharmaceutical drugs to its customers. One of two. New Zealand is the other one. And I don't think people really realize the gravity or the impact of what that is. I mean, think about this. When we were kids growing up, it was very common that everyone just drank milk at dinner. And that was considered healthy. Your parents were like, you can't leave unless you drink milk. Now, if you did that, people would think you're a psychopath. You get arrested in Los Angeles if you make people drink whole milk. But that was normalized and that was okay. Why? Because the milk industry advertised the shit out of milk in the 90s and the 80s, and it worked completely. So now extrapolate that out to the fact that most of the advertisements we are seeing on television are for prescription drugs. And what I find very funny is when they say the side effects, now old people are just dancing through the most horrific side effects. They're like, they'll show people like playing tennis. They're like, dizzy eyes. And then someone will be like jogging and they're like, blurred vision. And then they'll be like, bleeding anus. And then just some people are just like raising the roof when they're saying it. So let's get back to Matthew Perry and ketamine. And by the way, I have nothing but love for Matthew Perry and people who struggle with addiction. And if anybody knows anything about him, in his book, he was extremely open about the fact that he was massively addicted to prescription drugs. He used to break into house showings in Los Angeles, this is like during Friends, and steal their prescription drugs. So what we do know as a fact is that Whitney Houston, Prince, Tom Petty, I looked it up all today, all died of legal prescription drugs. Okay, so now let's talk about ketamine. Ketamine is, first of all, by all means, to be responsible with ketamine. I think that's very important. I think going into a hot tub after ketamine is like one of the worst places you could do ketamine. That and maybe whitewater rafting. So I've done ketamine. I've done 6 sessions of ketamine through this amazing app called MindBloom. And when you do it, it's all about, through MindBloom, it's all about safety, intentionality, and purpose, and responsibility. And when I did ketamine with MindBloom, which was, like I said, 6 sessions, 6 trips, I had like a counselor, I had access to integrative sessions, I set intentions, I journaled. This isn't like some fuck around house party where everyone does ketamine and jumps off roofs. So having the headline saying Matthew Perry dies of acute effects of ketamine is 100% an attempt to discredit ketamine, to discredit a drug that's not owned by the pharmaceutical companies, they have no control over, and even more importantly, a drug that actually gets you to know yourself, to know other people, to love more, and to really realize how powerful you are. My cousin Andrea said this great thing where she said, isn't it interesting that all the drugs that are heart opening are banned and demonized, and it's just like reefer madness all over again, where people will be like, oh, mushrooms, don't do it, you can get addicted, and then you just run into traffic. Or you can also just talk to God and figure out all the answers to all of life's questions. That's another option. So let's say, so Matthew Perry they said that he died of acute effects of ketamine. Okay. But they also said he drowned. And I just want to say that when you do ketamine, and it sounds like he did too much of it, which again, I'm all for advocating responsibility and intentionality. I'm not out here saying everybody should just rip ketamine like it's nothing. It's a process and it's a decision if you want to do that for yourself. So he was in the hot tub for 2 hours. And if you do a healthy dose of ketamine, the effects of ketamine last for 50 minutes. Okay, a normal dose, I shouldn't say healthy. So he took too much and he was in a hot tub. And they're like, it wasn't drowning that did it. I'm like, I think it might be drowning. I'm not a scientist. I don't know enough about ketamine to say whether or not this has happened to other people, but I've never heard of this before. And if you guys want to if pharmaceutical companies want to have a discussion about efficacy, Mindbloom claims that 80% of people who've done ketamine have had profound changes in depression, anxiety, and stress reduction. And count me in that 80%. And I think it's extremely rare that you're going to find a single pharmaceutical drug that is that effective. So I'm personally really upset about this because I feel like it's going to scare away so many people from doing medicine that's actually going to heal them and open their heart more. And the thing about ketamine too is the goal is to get you off of it. So it's not something that you have to do every day. It's not money that you have to spend on prescription drugs. And I was on integrative calls with elderly people with ketamine that their entire lives they were depressed. And they said for the first time ever because of ketamine, they're no longer depressed. This woman told a story about how her gardener just hugged her. And she's like, I've never been an affectionate person, and now that's who I am. I hug my gardener. I can tell you personally, my experiences on ketamine, the 6 trips I took, I saw some of the most amazing, beautiful things I've ever seen in my life. I saw a montage of everybody who's ever hugged me. I became this celestial being. I could see my brain rewiring itself. I could see visuals of certain people who I love so much, and I could feel them and and just feel how much I love them. I would see my dog Willoughby, and I would just start tearing up because I love them so much. I saw visuals of people who I love hugging me on a red carpet. So I don't know, guys. I don't think ketamine's the enemy here. I mean, you tell me. I'm very hopeful by the fact that I feel like a lot of people are catching wind to that this is absolute bullshit and mainstream media. And then people wonder why nobody believes anybody anymore. It's when you have a headline that says Matthew Perry dies of acute effects of ketamine, and then the subheadline is, oh, by the way, he was also on opioids, and he had a heart condition, and he was in a hot tub for 2 hours with a heart condition, but that's not the headline. I mean, the fucking jig is up, y'all. It's insane. And this is not a conspiracy theory. We all know now as a fact that the Purdue Pharmaceutical Company knowingly poisoned millions of Americans and caused the opioid epidemic, which we are still roiling from right now. And those motherfuckers are mostly unscathed. I saw a headline when I was researching this that said that they can't be sued in exchange. The Purdue family cannot be sued in exchange for giving funding for research on opioid addiction. This is how deep the corruption of the pharmaceutical industry and our politicians goes. This is not a conspiracy theory. Everyone's seen Dope Sick. So I think always a healthy level of skepticism of the pharmaceutical industry is not quaint or cute, it's necessary. It's insane when you're only going for profit and putting it over people's mental health and well-being. It's beyond excusable. But I'm very hopeful that a lot of my friends and people who have been texting me all can see that this is bullshit. And I believe that we are totally waking up and healing ourselves and becoming super more empowered through the help of, yes, sometimes psychedelics, but you don't have to do it. You can meditate. You can have great community. You can go dancing. You can just love more. you can just be happy. But all these things are just empowering us and leading us back to us. So I feel really bad for Matthew Perry. I feel really bad for anybody who is being duped and lied to and thinking that these drugs are the enemy. And this is literally what they did with marijuana and reefer madness and made people scared of it and said that you're gonna just like drive around hit kids on their bicycles. Meanwhile, alcohol somehow is just fine, y'all. Just keep drinking, keep having that Fireball, which PS is just banned in other countries because it's so toxic, but it's fine here. By the way, I drink, and no judgment. I think it's still pretty fun. But I just think it's like, once we start normalizing ketamine and mushrooms, I think we're gonna live in a much happier world, a much more enlightened world, and I don't think they can stop it unless they get a hold of it. So let's continue to push for meaningful, real change, and meaningful, real enlightenment, and keep empowering ourselves, because that's the only way that they will not be able to stop us. But I really believe in the future of us. So thanks so much for listening to my rant. Fuck the New York Times. I'm still mad. You're the best. Have a great day. I'm freezing.